We sometimes are at these what we call tipping points. And if you can just find a way to get over that next level, and it's true in health and consciousness and finances and everything, then there's a new level of peace. There's a new level of abundance. There's a new level of lovingness, whatever you're focused on.
Hello, Judah family. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a super special video that we are creating for you. It's not just a video, it's an experience. So go ahead and enter into the experience by opening your heart and spirit for what's going to come forth. I am so very, very pleased to have a part of the Judah family, a very integral part, and our business partners, Focus Life Force Energy. And I have with me here today, Jeffrey Stegman and Clayten Stedman. And they are the owners and founders of Focus Life Force Energy, which we will heretofore reference as FLFE. And when I love these guys so much, I had been connected with the service and had the FLFE service for a long time before Judah came around. So I like to imagine, and I'm quite certain that the energy, the atmosphere that they provided to our home was a part of Judah's coming and being a part of our lives. And in the beginning of our time with Judah, we asked Judah about this FLFE. And Judah began to prophesy about these two gentlemen that you're getting ready to meet. And Judah said that these two guys are the Wright Brothers of consciousness, like Orville and Wilbur Wright were to inventing the airplane and putting humanity in the air. Think about that. Two guys, Orville and Wilbur Wright, they managed to revolutionize our entire lives by putting us in the air and giving us flight for all of humanity. And so Judah said that these two guys, Jeff and Clayten, are the Wright Brothers of consciousness. And that got me so stoked. I don't think that was an overstatement. I think what these guys are doing is inventive, creative, and can be globally effective to raise our consciousness. Tell us about that, because one of the things I love about FLFE is it's so affordable. And I know that if I was really, really struggling after I paid my basic bills and fed myself, FLFE would be number one on my list, because I believe that it can create an atmosphere of abundance as well. But tell me about, for these parents that have kids with cell phones, even young kids, how that could offer protection around them. Well, first of all, I'm more of an ENFJ. I'm not a scientific, but it gives me a thrill to think about my grandbabies and my kids being in this bubble of love. What is is there a parameter of the auric field it creates, and how does that work?
Well, the Everywhere service is within a 9-foot bubble. It's like 590.
Love it.
But it's a little different from a property where a property is stable and you can clear continuously, as FLFE does, and compensate for other things that might be happening from outside. But a phone's on the move, you're in the car, you're in the plane, so you can't do clearing in the same way. So that's why the field is higher, and it just sort of compensates for what's around it. And then it goes out to 300 feet. So everyone within 300 feet is blessed at a lower level of, a not so high level of consciousness, but still 500, really beneficial. So you're going to blessing everybody everywhere you go.
I love it.
So people find that people just respond differently around them. And it could be part of what happens with kids around them. But there's something about having all that chi, all that prana, that unconditional love, that those parts of ourselves, especially with kids that are, maybe even hating part of themselves, or really critical of themselves and not living up to some ideal that they see, and really feeling trapped and unloved. And just there's something about being in that environment now starts to rise their own opinion of themselves. And there's just more energy. And when there's more energy, you get up and you do things. So we saw an environment where a boy was in an accident. He was paralyzed and he was in bed, months, and just not engaging at all, just really depressed because he's a young man. He lost his ability to walk and everything. So his sister put on FLFE. And when she came back later that day, he was out of bed in the wheelchair outside. And it was a total miracle for her.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. And I can really sense, I feel like Judah wants to speak to this. We want to encourage anyone who is in a really difficult situation. Perhaps you've been contemplating for several months or weeks a divorce or a change of your workplace because the situation has become untenable. We want to encourage you right here. Take a moment, and instead of taking an action to alter your situation, instead bring yourself and your environment into this FLFE field and give yourself 90 days and allow the high consciousness field to begin to shape and mold and shift the situation for you. And within it, we encourage you to anticipate a miracle. Anticipate a miracle. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you, Judah, because I feel like sometimes we get in these situations and we feel like we have to take some action. And it reminds me too, many years ago, I was with a therapist and they said to me, you have to get out of this relationship that you're in. This person's toxic for you. You should not be with them. And, this was a very loving and compassionate and skilled and qualified therapist, but I knew in my gut that that was not right. It was not right for me. I knew that for me to leave the relationship would be to let my ego off the hook or my part of it. And that if I was serious about transformation and being a loving person, that I was to sit still. So I love that. That thrills me. I feel like that's a promise for Judah, for some people that are listening right now. They're in really dire circumstances, to sit tight and get this FLFE field going and then just expect a miracle and ask for one. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually live in a world of miracles. That is the default underlying truth to everything. I mean, we're on a spinning ball of Earth going through space at what, I forget, it's 18,000 miles, whatever it is. It's the whole thing's a miracle. The fact that the planet's even here is a miracle. The fact that we're alive, the odds of us being alive at our age, given all the things that have happened in the world and the historical number of people that have been killed just in childbirth. I mean, it doesn't take long to realize we're actually living a miracle.
Yeah, I think Judah has something else on this too. Yes, and we want to say that if you want to be a person that can make a space for miracles, join your intention with this FLFE service and then step back and know that as you've applied it to your environment, you are literally creating a physical space for miracles. You are creating a portal between heaven and earth, between heaven and earth. You are creating an open doorway by which angels and source energy and the Christ consciousness can come and bring miracles for you and all of those in your environment. When Jesus said, I am the door, he was speaking of this ability that he had to create an open passageway between earth and heaven. And this FLFE is patterned after this understanding of reality, of truth, that portals can be established in the earth, opening up presence to the presence of heaven and the assistance of heaven. Yes, and that makes me think, I think I've heard you guys share about how FLFE is like a prayer. Can you talk about that?
Well, high consciousness fields are created by humans when we're in the right headspace.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So most of us have had the experience where we think of somebody and all of a sudden our phone rings, right? And it's a friend calling, and they're holding us in mind. They're holding a unique identifier, and FLF uses a unique identifier, and they're likely sending us goodwill, right? Even if they're not conscious about it, because they're reaching out to connect. And so that is a type of prayer. And that's exactly how FLFE works. It creates a high consciousness field in an environment with a unique identifier. It has many, we call them, so it has this high consciousness field, which you can adjust, by the way, on your control panel. You can actually turn it up and turn it down. You can turn EMF mitigation on and off. So you have control over your environment, because we want people to be their own consciousness researchers. We want to empower people. And so it's much, it's much like humans at our best. When we're thinking of somebody, we're sending them good thoughts. And the good thoughts in the FLFE environment are, we call them programs. So we have the level of consciousness of the field, and then we have the information in the field. Just like the information in the field around your chair means it's your sacred Anjie chair. Don't sit in my chair, probably. I don't know. That's the thought. Or people they just think it's somebody else's chair. I don't sit in that chair. It may not be your thought, but it's just kind of one of those things, I have a chair like that as well. An old lazy boy chair. I bought it at a thrift store.
Those are the best.
And I can't find. I went to a lazy boy warehouse in Vancouver, 10,000 square feet, every kind of chair you can imagine. And I could not find a chair, because Cheryl on my website, like, get rid of that old chair. You don't like it. It's ugly. It's the most comfortable chair I have ever found.
Yes.
So it's got that old wooden handle on the side. So I sit down. It's like just made for me. And I pull the handle back, and it does this anti-gravity thing. It's kind of like flat, and I can have great naps, just gone. So so we have these programs, which are requests to divinity in the FLFE environment, and they're very highly calibrated. They're 999 or out of 1,000 or higher on the Hawkins map. And we make these requests to have things like the ability to change a positive thought to a negative. A negative thought to a positive.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, and that's one of the. So the ability to change a negative thought to a positive thought, and the ability to get out of a mood. I think those are the one, a bad mood. Those are I think the number 1 and 2. Jeff will confirm this. The 1 and 2 benefits that people report when we do surveys.
I love
Ability
that.
to change their thought and switch their mood.
Oh, that's so important.
And the other one is forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yes.
So those, again, those are just spiritual tools, right? To be able to move out of a negative mood, to change that negative thought to a positive, but to forgive ourselves. I mean, first of all, and then forgive others. So those come up the most often is what people experience in that environment.
All right, I want to say those 3 again, because those are really powerful. Those are ones that Judah's really excited about.
So we've got change a negative thought to a positive thought.
Good.
So that's really, because often these negative thoughts are about ourselves, right? I mean, probably most of the time they're about ourselves. So, and that may be partly what's holding us back from changing our life and for things around us to change, is we're having those negative thoughts about ourselves. So the ability in that unconditional love to change that. The second that Clayten mentioned was being in a negative mood and moving that to a positive mood by, appreciation, gratitude, whatever it is. But it's easier because you're in this higher environment.
It's easier to let it go. I love that.
Yeah.
And then the third is forgiveness.
Those are huge.
Yeah.
And, one question we get occasionally is, what about negative entities or negative energies or spirits? And Judah was sharing last night, we had that question come up, and in response, Judah said, hang on, it's going to elude me for a second. I'm so high that I'm having trouble focusing. Okay, help me, Judah. Oh, yes. So what Judah was sharing is that a lot of these, when negative energies or thought forms are taking up residence with us or around us, is because of unforgiveness of the self and others, that's like a doorway for it. So that's really exciting, Jeff, when you consider that it helps us to forgive. So that's basically closing the door on those, the ability of those negative energies to come around through forgiveness. And, those are those three that you mentioned, those are some of the main obstacles that we hear to growth and transformation, are those three things. What about folks that are really hitting those higher rungs now? They're up in the 500s and 600s. Sometimes it's fun. I get a session occasionally with some of these folks, and I feel like they're just schooling me. I'm so honored that they would schedule an appointment with me, and I feel like I'm learning from them. They're doing really powerful things in the earth. And some of them are just really booking a session to say hi, and I want to meet you, and let's connect. What about FLFE for those folks? Does it make a difference for them?
Well, the FLFE environment, if you have FLFE on your home and the slider's at 550, because you can take it all the way down to 400 and you go up to 570, plus you have boosts you can use. We have a 700 boost on this call, right? So we have a little extra love. So if you are on FLFE, or if you're in an FLFE environment, it's at 550. I was just doing the math on this earlier, Jeff. You are in the top 1/100th of 1% of properties on the planet.
Wow.
So that means you're not using your own energy to compensate for the environment. So it's very unlikely that you're even living in a home that's at 500. Now, part of your home might be your chair. The magic chair might be quite high, or the room might be quite high, but to have your entire property be high, to have a field around you when you're traveling to be that high, in the history of humanity, that's extraordinarily rare. You'd have to live at a pilgrimage site, basically, typically. Now, some pilgrimage sites are higher. Some of the cathedrals in Europe are 700. So unless you're a custodian working at night, or a priest or something, living on that site, you may not have ever experienced in your incarnations an environment that's so supportive.
Right.
So for the people that are high, they won't have to give up their own energy to compensate for the environment around them. And that can really take them to the next level. That can take them, a lot of people, we sometimes are at these, what we call tipping points, where we're almost at that next level, or we're back and forth and back and forth. And if you can just find a way to get over that next level, and it's true in health and consciousness and finances and everything, then there's a new level of peace. There's a new level of abundance. There's a new level of lovingness, whatever you're focused on. So that would be I think I'll start with that.
Yeah, and I've got one as well. So the way we've designed FLFE is that these numbers that we're throwing out, they're not the level of consciousness, they're the floor. So they're like the trampoline, you pop lower, it helps you to pop back up. But many properties are much higher than that on the FLFE service. In fact, they can, like our property gets above 600. Many of the properties on the service get above 600. In fact, sometimes you have to take the slider down a little bit, but to get in, you might put the slider, say you put the slider at 540, it might bring it down to 590. So it's the sum of what we're doing in the environment and what others are doing, the intentions that we're bringing forth, the work that we're doing, and the FLFE environment supporting takes us up to that next level. So it isn't it's not a restriction. It's really like a floor. And what's really happening can be much higher.
Yeah. And on a personal level, I'll just share, I wish there was a way that I could quantifiably, state that I know for sure certain things about how FLFE has influenced the Judah journey. But I trust my intuition, and I trust anybody listening to draw their own conclusions. And, since we put FLFE on our home, all of this miraculous stuff with Judah has transpired after that point. And were we doing a lot of other things to raise our consciousness? Yes, of course. But I'm sure, this is my personal belief that it made a huge difference in the onset and the coming through of Judah and the miracles. And not just Judah coming in contact with angels, but the bliss, and the days. Sometimes there's just days where I'm just dragging my feet across the floor. They're like noodles, and we're just this beautiful presence of glory in our house. And it's just such an inexpressible gift of gratitude. And sometimes I almost feel a little bad talking about it sometimes, because I know there's the other parts where people are deeply, desperately struggling. So I like to mention, and I'll mention right here, that I had those times. I had those times of the dark night of the soul, of just being tormented by my own thoughts and emotional pain and depression and difficulty, not having enough money, not having rewarding work, feeling enslaved in my job and things like that. But this is, it's not a permanent state. It's not a permanent state. If you're the kind of person that's even watching a video like this, if you've even found your way to the Judah channel, I just have this complete faith that you're being awakened and that you're on an awakening journey and you're moving towards your own personal state of enlightenment. So I know just by your being here that you're on your way out of that and moving towards the bliss and the beauty that I'm describing in our, Judah's been integral to that. But you've got your own angels and your own relationship with source and with your higher self that you're going to experience, and they can be every bit as miraculous and exquisite as the experience that I've had with Judah. I'm not the exception to the rule by any means. It's available for everybody. So guys, what else do you want to tell us? And I definitely do want you to, before we go, I want you to let everybody know how they can sign up, what the services are. And also I want to know how, I know there's people out there listening that want to know how they can serve FLFE and be a blessing to you guys.
Well, we should mention the EMF mitigation.
Good.
Because I think that's, there's a lot of anxiety in the world, especially with kids. And, they've always got this phone close to their head, or they're looking at it close to their heart, maybe as they're texting. That field that's emitted by those devices lowers consciousness. So we measure consciousness. That's our specialty. And when we saw properties were lower than we thought they should be, when we talked to the customers and found out it was an EMF issue, there's other things that can happen as well, but we found, new cell tower, smart meters, that kind of thing. New router. Oh, I put my router under my bed because it was convenient. And it's like, well, that is affecting us in many, many ways. And that feeling of anxiety, for me personally, if I turn off the EMF mitigation, just testing to see what it feels like in FLFE, I feel my shoulders start to come up and I feel tension in my body, and it's hard to take a breath. And that feels like anxiety, but it's a body reaction that's happening. And I believe that a lot of what the anxiety people feel can be from the EMFs. And so what we did is we included this with all the service, and everything is included. And you can do these boosts, and which raise the level of consciousness temporarily. But this EMF mitigation, we just completed, we're on our third experiment. We did a 40-person experiment with Dr. Gary Schwartz and a University of Pennsylvania researcher. And we saw really dramatic results. These were people that were very sensitive to EMFs. They took the series of surveys before FLFE and then after FLFE was on for couple of periods of time. And their symptoms, this is anxiety, sleeplessness, brain fog, joint pain, headaches, went like in all together from a point like this down. Everybody's symptoms came down. And when you look at the whole group, it was a dramatic change. And some people, it was like night and day. They went from being incapacitated to living their life.
Wow.
And other people, it was more subtle. But really fascinating that we can open a consciousness field in 30 seconds. If someone goes on the free trial, they can open this in 30 seconds and they can start to feel that effect.
Mm-hmm. And I love that the free trial, is no strings attached. You don't have to give a credit card. It's not like all the subscription things out there where you sign up and then you have to go through the hassle of unsubscribing and all that. It really is truly a gift.